Assalamu alaikum again, dear students. So in the previous in part 1, we talked about songs of experience, and we read the tiger, the 4 stanzas, and we said that the poet here is asking the tiger about his creator, and whether the creator of the tiger, which is powerful, strong, cruel, and violent, is the same creator of the lamb, which was a meek and a mild and tender creature. Okay, we said that here we will talk about the analysis after we analyzed it, but we can read the analysis that is written here. So the opening question enacts what will be the single dramatic gesture of the poem, and each subsequent stanza elaborates on this connection. So the first question, what immortal hand or eye could frame the fearful symmetry? So in the next stanzas, the poet is taking part of the tiger to ask about its creation. Okay, Blake is building on the conventional idea that nature, like a work of art, must in some way contain a reflection of its creator. The tiger is strikingly beautiful, yet also horrific in its capacity for violence. So as if this is a sign that the creator, the God here, is beautiful, but also it is horrifying. What kind of a God then could or would design such a terrifying beast as the tiger? In more general terms, what does the undeniable existence of evil and violence in the world tell us about the nature of God? So here actually where people start to be skeptic, okay? And what does it mean to live in a world where a being can at once contain both beauty and horror? So for some people it's like skepticism, اللي هي التشكيك, okay, and which could take some people to become disbeliever, because they would keep asking why God created the evil, why created the diseases, why created, and so on. But for other people, they would think that this is the nature of our world, of our life. Actually, it is a mixture between beauty and horror, beauty, good and evil. Okay, so the tiger is to Blake a symbol of life, relentless, strong, remorseless, yet beautiful. So this is our life. Actually, our life is what our life is what is the word that I want to say? Instead of relentless, strong, and remorseless, it is sometimes bad, horrible, difficult to deal with, but still it's beautiful and we like to be here. Okay, it is also a symbol of regeneration and energy. The speaker wonders at the dreadful and yet well-proportioned shape and figure of the tiger. So the tiger, the sizes of its muscles, of its body, of its legs, of its eyes, all of them are actually strong, but this strength is reflected in a beautiful way or a beautiful shape. Okay, and asks who could have been the designer of the tiger's body. The speaker goes on to wonder, how did the creator of the tiger soar to the distant skies or descend to the depths of the earth in order to obtain the needful fire for the tiger's eyes. زي ما حكينا انه يتساءل الشاعر إلى أي سماء أو سماءات صعد الخالق، وإلى أي أعماق أرض وصل من أجل الحصول على تلك النار ليضعها مشتعلة في عيون التايجر. Okay, whose hands could have dared to catch hold of fire? I think I explained this. Okay, notice that the language used by the poet in lines 6 to 9, burnt the fire of thine eyes, Oh, what wings there he aspires. Okay, so the language here from 6 and continue to 9 pertains to the operation of a blacksmith. Okay, yeah, this is when he starts talking about what the hammer, what the chain, in what furnace was they brain. Okay, so here he's reflecting or talking or using a blacksmith working, وكأنه احنا في ورشة حداد اللي قاعد بيصنع، لأنه كان عندهم الحداد يصنع السيوف والأمور هذه القوية المصنوعة من الحديد. فهو تخيل أنه وقت خلق التايجر كان وكأنه الخالق موجود في ورشة حدادة وبيشتغل عشان يطلع التايجر بهذه القسوة وبهذه القوة وبهذا الجمال. Okay, so here pertains to the operation of a blacksmith working to build some marvelous machine. The muscles of the tiger's heart and the deadly terrors of the tiger's brain make the poet wonder at the strength and daring of the power which created the tiger. يعني القلب بقوة قلب التايجر النمر وقوة عضلات قلبه وقوة العقل عنده ووحشيته. يعني مين اللي قدر يخلقه؟ Okay. Then the speaker proceeds to say that the apparatus needed to create the tiger must have been frightening. مؤكد انه الماكينة اللي تم استخدامها لصناعة التايجر كانت very frightening، كانت شكلها مخيف مؤكد. The hammer, the chain, the furnace and the anvil required for the purpose would have struck terror in our hearts. تماما كما تدخل ورشة مليانة سكاكين وسيوف وبلطات، كيف شعورك بيكون؟ شعور بالخوف، شعور بالرعب. نفس الشيء عند صناعة أو خلق التايجر. الأجهزة اللي تم استخدامها أجهزة مرعبة، منظرها مرعب للإنسان. Okay? Not only that, but even we cannot even conceive the skill, the strength and the courage that the creator displayed while creating the tiger. حتى عقولنا البشرية غير قادرة على استيعاب كم المهارة والقوة والشجاعة التي يمتلكها الخالق لأجل خلق حيوان مثل حيوان بقوة وبوحشية وجمال النمر. Okay. طيب, let's come now to the stanza about the stars. Do you remember when we said that this is a personification in which the author or the poet personifies the stars or depicts the stars as a human being who cries of fear. Okay, so even the stars, first of all created things, أول المخلوقات اللي وجدت على وجه الأرض، يعني المفترض ما فيش إشي بخوفها، were struck with grief and terror when they first viewed this new creature. إذن حتى النجوم أول ما شافت المخلوق الجديد من الرعب والخوف، صدمت من الرعب والخوف. They watered heaven with their tears. تخيلوا من الخوف ملأوا السماء بدموعهم. من هم؟ Of course this refers to the stars. And unable to understand the creator's purpose. وكانوا يعني غير قادرين على فهم هدف الخالق من خلق النمر. Okay? Threw down their spears in astonishment and despair. لدرجة إنه من تعجبهم ومن يأسهم، لأنهم مش فاهمين شو سبب خلقه، تماما كما عمل إبليس لما خلق ربنا آدم. أوكي، فمن كتر صدمتهم صاروا يلقوا بسهامهم رماحهم عبر السماء. وإحنا بنعرف النجوم لما بتتساقط في الليل بيكون في عندي اللي هم خطوط، هذه هم اللي سماهم الرماح. If the creator smiled to see his work, it cannot be known. Okay, so he says, he asks the tiger, let me read the line. Did he smile his work to see? هل ابتسم الخالق بعد أن رأى ما خلقه? We don't know. So if the creator smiled to see his work, we don't know. There is no answer for this question. Okay. I think because this is a rhetorical question, سؤال بلاغي، وعادة الأسئلة البلاغية إحنا بنسألها to provoke thinking not to get answers. يعني أنا بس عشان أشغل التفكير ليس للحصول على إجابة، لأنه أنا بالغالب لما بسأل rhetorical question I know the answer. Okay, I just want you to think about the idea. The speaker doesn't even know if the same power created both the tiger and the lamb. تخيلوا لدرجة إنه المتحدث في القصيدة يعني يتساءل هل من خلق النمر هو نفسه من خلق الخروف؟ يعني this is a very very different two creatures that are very different. One of them is a symbol of innocence, the other is a symbol of cruelty, power, and beauty. Okay, fine. The poem then is, this is the end of our analysis of this poem. The poem then is a deeply complex set of questions that have no easy answers. يعني you can't answer why God created good and bad, why created the ugly and the beautiful, why created the powerful, the cruel, and the meek and the mild, why created those who are powerful attacking those who are powerless, killing them, exploiting them, and so on. So all these questions are controversial, and answering them is not easy. There is no doubt, though, that the poem wants its reader to consider the way in which the word seems to contain both good and evil. So all you need to understand here is that our life is full of, or is in its nature, has good and evil parts, has cruel and soft parts, and so on. To acknowledge these contradictory forces and question why they exist, even though the answers may never be clear. So you can ask yourself why these good and bad things were made, but you should always remember that the answer is not easy and it's not clear. Just understand the nature of your life. So if there are ups, definitely there are downs. If there are good people, for sure there are bad people, and so on. Okay? So that's the end of the discussion of William Blake and his representative poems, The Lamb from Songs of Innocence and The Tiger from Songs of Experience. Here you have two questions. Please answer them, and I will leave space on our... we can discuss them later. Just answer them, and then later, inshallah, you will submit them. Okay, now let's move to William Wordsworth, another romantic poet who was born in 1770 and passed away in 1850. William Wordsworth's father was a lawyer. Both of his parents died before he became 15, so his brothers and sisters were left to be cared about with different relatives. As a young man, Wordsworth developed a love of nature, a theme reflected in many of his poems. Do you remember when I explained before that romanticism? So we said that romanticism is not only about love between men and women, but actually it could be love for children, love for innocent creatures, love for animals, love for nature. So it could be all these ideas are romantic ideas. Okay? While studying at Cambridge University, Wordsworth spent a summer holiday on a walking tour in Switzerland and France. He became an enthusiast for the ideals of the French Revolution. So if you remember, the French Revolution calls for equality, calls for social justice, calls for religious tolerance. So all those actually romantic ideas about nature of human life were with the French Revolution William Wordsworth admired them and adopted them, تبناهم. He began to write poetry while he was at school, but none was published until 1793. So he was a talented poet since his childhood. Okay. A legacy from a friend. We said that his parents passed away, so his life wasn't easy. He was poor at the beginning, but a legacy from a friend, يعني ميراث, allowed him to set up a home with his sister Dorothy in 1795. He befriended with Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Taylor Coleridge is another romantic poet that we will look at one example of his work, with whom he collaborated to write the poems for lyrical ballads in 1798. In 1802, he married an old school friend, Mary Hutchinson. In the following years, he became gradually estranged from Coleridge because they had a fight with each other, and even if they reconciled after that, but actually their cooperation stopped and they rarely met. In 1843, he succeeded Robert Southey as poet laureate. His long autobiographical poem, The Prelude, was published in 1850. Okay. Wordsworth's worship of nature led him to venerate the simple country folk whom he considered purer and wiser than town folk. He loved nature to the maximum, okay? And everything that is connected with nature deserved his love, including the people, the villagers, or the people who lived in the countryside. He thought that they were simple people, okay? And those people were actually loving people, honest people, not corrupted like the citizens of cities, okay? Even their language, he celebrated their language, and he thought that their language was less corrupt, okay? In his poetry, Wordsworth talks about the pleasures to be culled from being in nature. So he thinks that if you spend your time in natural places, you will get pleasure, you will get joy, you will get relief, okay? So he actually advised people, if they want to educate themselves, they want to gain knowledge, then don't just sit and bend yourself on books, okay, to read. This will make you weaker actually, okay, and bent. But go to the nature, learn from the mother nature, okay. He talks about the truth that a child possesses, which we toil all our lives to find, which is intimation and of immortality. This is in one of his poems, in which he talks that the children, they are actually possessing things that we spend our lives trying to find: the happiness, the joy, the pleasure. The simplicity of his language belies the rich meaning inherent in the ideas. Notice his use of simple diction in the two Lucy poems, one of them that we will talk about inshallah today, below, and the apparent contradiction in what he says. When you take a closer depth look in-depth look at the meaning, you will see that it is the two levels of logic and illogic that makes the poem powerful, okay? Now, the themes that he focused on, there were three major themes that William Wordsworth focused on. The first one is the beneficial influence of nature. Nature provides us with the ultimate good influence on our minds, okay? So actually, if you go to the nature, this will make you actually get closer to the beautiful, the simple things in life. And this will elicit noble, elevated thoughts and passionate emotions inside you, okay? Another thing is that a good relationship with nature helps individuals connect to both the spiritual and social worlds. So if you want to have healthy relationships with people, first connect with the nature around you. If you love the nature, if you enjoy the nature, this will make you peaceful from inside. And when you are peaceful, you will be able to create social bonds with the people around you. Okay, a good example from Wordsworth poems, okay, is the prelude, which reflects love of nature, which can lead to a love of humankind. If you love nature, you will love the human beings. Okay. So the first one is the beneficial influence of nature. Nature is very good and influence us in it has great impact on our thoughts and on our spiritual and social worlds. The second theme is related to the power of the human mind. Wordsworth praised the power of the human mind. Using memory and imagination, individuals could overcome difficulty and pain. So the idea here is that even if you go through painful situations, difficult times, the power of your mind can help you reduce this pain, can help you imagine a better situation, can help you think about better times to come. Then you will go through this crisis easily. For instance, the speaker in lines composed a few miles above the Tintern Abbey relieves his loneliness with memories of nature. Okay, that the transformative powers of the mind are available to all, regardless of an individual's class or background. So this power of the mind is not only for noble people, it's not only for educated people. It exists for every individual, okay? This democratic view emphasizes individuality and uniqueness. So يعني احنا مش فقط المتعلم أو أبناء الملوك أو الأمراء هم فقط اللي عندهم قوة العقل لتغيير واقعهم، ولكن أي شخص كمان ممكن يتحلى بهذه القوة. Throughout his work, Wordsworth showed strong support for the political, religious, and artistic rights of the individual, including the power of his or her mind. So, if you remember when we talked about equality and his belief in the French Revolution principles, one of those principles was equality. So he thought that all individuals in society deserve to get political, religious, equal political, religious, and artistic rights. Okay. The third theme is the splendor of childhood. Then the first theme was the nature, the second, the power of the human mind, and the third is related to childhood. The idea in simply is that when you are a child, you are an innocent creature and you are closer to the nature. When you age or as you get older, you can imagine your life as a road taking you away from your mother nature and making you more corrupted. So by the time you forget your innocence and you grow up. So in Wordsworth poetry, childhood is a magical, magnificent time of innocence. Children form an intense bond with nature, so much so that they appear to be a part of the natural world rather than a part of the human social world. Their relationship to nature is passionate and extreme. And we can notice how children feel happy when they are on the beach, for example, when they are in a park, when they see birds, when they see little animals, because they are part of the nature. We brought them to this world, okay, but actually they are part of the nature. But later they will become part of the human society. The speaker in Ode, Intimation, okay, of Immortality, believes that children delight in nature because they have access to a divine, immortal world. As children age and reach maturity, they lose this connection but gain an ability to feel emotions, both good and bad. So at the beginning, when they are children and they are innocent, they just see the good things in life, in every creature, in every aspect of nature. Okay, but as they grow up, no, they start to experience the life, and they start to see that the life is not all truth, absolute truth, but as you meet truthful people, you meet also, or honest people, you also meet liars in this life. So, fine. Through the power of the human mind, particularly memory, adults can recollect the devoted connection to nature of their youth. Okay? So sometimes, just with the power of your mind, you can recall your memories from childhood, and this will bring happiness to you. Okay, actually it's our nature. As we age and we grow up, we just keep in our memory the good memories, while the bad experiences that we went through while we were children, we just delete them. Not because of the time that passes, but actually because as a children we try to focus and to internalize the good memories. Okay, so when you want to remember the past, you will find that the good memories are the ones that you can recall better. Okay, fine. So let's now come to one of the poems of William Wordsworth. I chose one of them. There were three of them, but I thought that She Dwelt Among the Untrodden Ways is a very actually interesting poem and amusing. So let's look at She Dwelt Among the Untrodden Ways. From the beginning, from the title, when we read it, she, of course, this is a young woman, maybe a woman, okay, dwelt, lived among the untrodden ways. Untrodden ways here, this is a metaphor that reflects the reflects loneliness, because if you go through untrodden ways, untrodden, it means that nobody moves on them, nobody walks on them. So she lives there in places, or a place that people don't go to, so she is lonely. So this is a reflection of loneliness. She dwelt among the untrodden ways, beside the springs of Dove. So this is a river actually. A maid, it means a young woman, whom were there were none to praise. Then a young woman who had nobody to appreciate her beauty, and very few to love. And she didn't have people who loved her, because she was living lonely in this area. A violet, you know the violet, the flower, which is violet, البنفسجي, بنفسج, by a mossy stone. So here, this is a metaphor. He is depicting the girl as a flower, and this flower is next to a mossy stone. mossy stone يعني الصخرة عليها الطحالب الخضراء مغطياها. How can you see the violet in this case? No, half hidden from the eye. So because of the mossy stone, nobody can see the violet. Fair as a star, when only one is shining in the sky. Though this girl, or this violet, was as beautiful, so this is a simile. This is a simile. As beautiful as a star when there is no other stars in the sky. There is only one star in the sky. How beautiful would be such a star? Of course, very beautiful. So the girl, for the speaker, was very beautiful, similar to a star, a lonely star, or a lone star in the sky. She lived unknown, and few could know. Then nobody knows about her. Nobody met her, nobody visited her. She was all alone. So She was alone and unknown to the extent that when Lucy, so this is the name of the girl, when Lucy ceased or died to be, okay, ceased to be, it means died. But she is in her grave. Okay, so let's focus on these two lines. She lived unknown, and if you could know when Lucy ceased to be, then she wasn't known to anybody, and that's why when Lucy passed away, when she died, just a very, very little number or few people could know. Nobody cared about her. But she is in her grave, ولكنها في قبرها, and oh, the difference to me. So even if she's now dead and in her grave, her death affected me greatly. So this is our poet. بالرغم من ان هي ماتت ومحدش مهتم لموتها ومحدش حتى عرف انه هي ماتت ودفنت الا عدد قليل جدا من الناس، وما حدا اهتم لموتها الا انه الشاعر عنا كان متأثر جدا بوفاتها، لأنه هي عاشت وحيدة رغم جمالها ورغم أنه هي كانت رائعة، إلا أنه ما كانش في حدا إلها وما كانش في حدا بحبها. So the summary: she lived in a remote place where few people ever ventured, near the source of the Dove River in central England. She was a young unmarried woman who didn't get the appreciation she deserved in life and whom very few people loved. She was like a violet next to a big mossy stone, the result of which was that her delicate beauty was often obscured by bigger, more obvious things. It was hard to fully see and understand her. She was as beautiful as a star when it is the only one to appear in the evening sky. So the idea is that here he is talking about a common individual, a common human being that nobody cared about. At that time, people only cared about people from noble origins, about kings, about queens, princes, while the common people, nobody appreciated them and nobody cared about them. And one of those common people is this girl. This young woman was unknown by people when she lived, and therefore few people noticed when this woman, whose name was Lucy, died. Nevertheless, she is dead and buried in the earth, and I must admit it has had a serious emotional impact on me. This is, I refers to the poet. Okay, إذا رغم إنها ماتت وما حدش عرف فيها إلا أنا بعترف إنه أنا تأثرت بشكل كبير جدا بموتها. Okay, so Lucy could represent here the child of nature. She is the child of nature. She grew up, okay, she was pure like the earth and has grown up along with nature. So Lucy here represent someone who is innocent and close to nature. The title, as we said, evokes a sense of loneliness because of the word untrodden, shows that the girl is all alone. This makes us feel sympathetic with Lucy and thus makes her a memorable image in our mind. إذا من العنوان إحنا بنشعر بالوحدة، لأنه كلمة untrodden طرق غير مطروقة أو لا يمشي فيها الناس، معنى ذلك أن الفتاة معزولة وتعيش لوحدها، وهذا بيجعلنا نشعر بالتعاطف معها وبيخلد صورتها في عقولنا. This poem deals with an ordinary and an obscure country lass. Lass means young woman who has almost nobody to appreciate her beauty as she lives in solitude. Solitude here means العزلة, and yet her death has a strong impact on William Wordsworth when he says she lived unknown and few could know when Lucy ceased to be, but she is in her grave and oh, the difference to me. Okay, so this shows us the fact that Wordsworth paid extra attention to common people. So common people also deserve to be cared about. It's not only about kings and the queen. Life has also those common people who have their stories, and we have to be actually sympathetic with them and to care about them. Wordsworth creates in Lucy a charming personality. She is a shy person, so her character or her personality is charming. Okay. Also, Lucy, okay, let me look at here. When he describes her to be shy by saying a violet by a mossy stone, half hidden from the eye, he portrays her to be a symbol of beauty, harmony, and all that is good. Lucy represents how precious life is and how quickly it can disappear. Wordsworth depicts Lucy to be a tremendously treasured being with, he says, fair as a star. This is the simile, okay? So in this simile, he depicts Lucy as a jewel, as a valuable jewel, when only one is shining in the sky. This also illustrates that Lucy, to William Wordsworth, is a rare piece of jewel, whose value increases as it is the only one which exists, okay? Okay, now this is an activity. This activity is that I want you to comment on the metaphors and similes used to describe Lucy's mystery and beauty in Wordsworth's poem, She Dwelt Among the Untrodden Ways. Thank you very much, and this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and see you in another video.